everyone, and welcome back to my studio. I'm Diane, and today I'm going to show you in real time and from scratch how to paint a simple but beautiful autumn lake landscape. So let's get started. Let's paint an autumn scene, a landscape, a little simple landscape with lots of nice bright yellow and red and gold maple leaves and a lake. And I've got here a pad. This is a glued pad of Baohong paper, cold pressed. It's about 5 by 8 or something along those lines. It's a little bit of a strange size. Yes, it says 5.9 by 8.3, and so it's quite long and quite not very tall. It's not ideal really, but it's what I have at the moment. And I'm going to have a lake in the middle and some distant trees, and then a golden tree in the foreground. And you could do it that way around, which might be better. You'd have more space for the size of the tree. You have to decide which sort of format you prefer really. And I'm not quite sure. I'm in a very indecisive mood today. Anyway, so the colours I've got to hand are going to be, we've got here some red. This is a cadmium red mixture of several of them. And we've got Windsor purple, Windsor violet, cadmium yellow, cadmium lemon, a green. This is a hooker's green, a quinacridone gold, and some burnt sienna. And I'm going to first of all start with a bigger brush than this. I'm going to start with my cat's tongue, ZEN ART cat's tongue, and I'm just going to wet. I'm going to paint the background blue. I was going to do that anyway, so that's fine. So now we have a lovely sky. That's what happens when you don't clean your brushes properly before you put them away. But as it happens, that's exactly what I was going to do. So we just drag that down over the entire background. I think that makes quite a nice sky. It's one of those days today when a few months ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I had a day and I started off my video saying I've had a bit of a bad day with not democracy, yes, that's gone, bureaucracy, French bureaucracy. Well, I've had another one of them today. So, okay, so we have a nice sky and we have some background there, and I need to pick up something greenish and darkish, and I'm going to drop in a line here, which we're going to call a distant tree line, so like an island or something like that. And we'll put another little bit over here. And maybe something a little bit further forward, like that. That was hooker's green, I think, mostly. And we'll sort of let that dry. Maybe we might put, might darken it up a little bit with a bit of brown and just drop something along the edge where it joins the water. That, of course, will also bleed. Just so distant trees. And then I'm going to, in the foreground here, just drop in some more green, and I'm going to make it a little bit more yellowish. So, sorry, you can see that. Mixing hooker's green with quinacridone gold to make a bit more of a bright green, and then we'll just brush in some grasses in the foreground. Just keep that fairly loose. And because it's the paper is still damp, it will blend. And now the idea is we're going to wait for that to dry, and then I'm going to put a tree in full autumn glory here, and probably a good idea too to just drop in a bit of blue while this is still wet. Put a bit of watery grey. Here's a disadvantage of a glued pad. You might want to think about cutting that off before you start to paint, because you get an edge there where the glue, I don't know if you can see that, and the brush will flick against it, and that's not terribly clever. Okay, so now I'm going to let that dry. Okay, so this is now dry, and I've just made sure it's completely dry by just quickly running the hairdryer over it, just to make sure it's absolutely flat again and no buckles there, because even when it's glued all the way around, a sheet of paper in a block like this will do its best to try to escape, and so you'll get a little bit of buckling, which is why I like to actually stretch my paper. But I forgot to, I usually do a half dozen or a dozen sheets all at once, because I've got lots of boards and I can stretch it all in advance. But I'd forgotten and I ran out, so I've had to resort to using this pre-glued block, which is Bauhong paper. And although I was complaining about this paper the other day when I was using it for something else, for this kind of painting it actually seems to be working out okay, so it has its virtues. Anyway, so I've got here my ZEN ART Black Tulip Faux Squirrel, that is to say not made from squirrel hairs, but made from nylon. And whether or not that's any better for the environment than squirrel hair, I don't know. But that's what it's made from, so there we are. And this is a small flat, this is a size 8. And I'm going to use that to draw in the leaves of this autumn tree. And I'm going to position the trunk somewhere around about here, so like a third of the way across, but I'm not going to put that in yet. I'm going to put the leaves in first. So I've picked up a little bit of quinacridone gold on my brush, and I'm going to paint with the corner, because that way you get a shape which is more leaf-like than you do with a round brush. And I'm painting over the sky, and I'm just going to leave lots of spaces in between the blobs of paint for the, for the birds to fly through. And we're going to keep it kind of broken and a sort of little bit dry. And I'm going to drop in a little bit of red along with the gold to just give that a bit more richness. And while we're doing this, we just try to think leaf, I'm painting leaves. And if you think that hard enough, then hopefully some of it will look vaguely like leaves, if you're lucky. And so yeah, the corner of the square brush is definitely better, much more, because if you use the round, okay, let's do that, because the round is much softer. You can see, I think, that is much softer, and then you get, I don't know, it doesn't give such a random effect. It's hard to demonstrate, but I feel like I want to paint in a much more an organised way when I'm using the round brush. It tends to do that. So anyway, do whatever you want, but that's a possibility that you might find it better to do it like that. And you can drop red in. Be careful with the bright red because it can be a bit dynamic. And we just do this sort of broken colour. All the way down to the edge there. And then if you want, you can go to some ordinary yellow, put some yellow in, cadmium yellow, mix that perhaps with a bit of golden, quinacridone gold, and we have a branch coming out here. You could try a little bit of burnt sienna as well if you want for a few of the leaves, but we're going to use that mostly for the trunk. A few bits out there like that. And as this dries, of course, it will lighten up. So you might have to come back with some more leaves like this. And if you paint with the corner of the brush, like I said, but you keep it fairly dry, then you get kind of a little bit more of a loose effect, or even a loose affiliation. So now I'm going to bring in the brown for the trunk. So just again, still using the corner of the brush, we'll just fill in some gaps as we go up like that and make the trunk go behind the leaves. And we might have another section over there. And then we could pick up some more brown and perhaps mix it with some violet to make a darker brown, and then just bring a twig out here like that. And then one there perhaps. And we just put some shadow going down the side of that tree trunk to make it stand out a bit more, or go back a bit more depending on which way you want to look at it. So then the next thing is going to be to put some stronger greens in the foreground, and I'm using the rigger here. This is again the ZEN ART rigger. So we've got some nice greens there and maybe a few browns. And perhaps I might pick up just a little bit of spatter there and just drop a few bits in onto the tree. Not too much. And just have a couple of birds flying in over the lake there. Whoops. And there we are. I think that's probably good enough. You might want to come back into the green and just darken that down a little bit, perhaps. In places. And this painting was inspired by an old book I have by an artist from America called Zoltan Sabo, who is, I do believe he is no longer with us. But I've put my own spin on it, painted it in a completely different way from the way he did it, but you can learn a lot from some of these old painters. Ron Ranson, for example. There's quite a few people on YouTube who actually specifically do in the style of Ron Ranson, and they copy his paintings, which is good. It's good learning. Good learning. And so I'm doing something similar here in the style of Zoltan. And I'm going to leave that now, I think. I don't think I want to do much more to that, maybe just one or two little specks on these leaves. Here. I'm going to let that dry. So there's the final painting. Thanks so much for watching my video. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful and fun. If you did, and you'd like to know when I put up more videos like this, just click subscribe and turn notifications on. I also want to thank all of you for your support and for joining the channel membership, and also for visiting the website dianeantone.com, where we have free sketch downloads and a range of gifts such as mugs and notebooks and colouring books. So go and take a look today. So I'll say goodbye for now, and I'll see you again here soon. Bye bye everybody. Bye bye.